I wanted something that was a little bit different, something that was sort of high concept but also mass market. In other words, something you could hope to get good reviews in the hardcore game mags, but something that also appealed to mass market and casual players, and something that had a marketing hook, something that was flipped upside down. And that's where I came up with Ghostmaster, where you control the ghosts and you do the scaring.
Had you already spoken to Empire when you came to me about this? I remember I was in the US and you got in touch with some provisional design ideas that you wanted fleshing out.
I think that might have been, it was either just before or just after, it's hard to remember, but I think it was just before when I was looking at fleshing it into a game.
It was very exciting. The basic concept was already there, and there was a lot of different ways that we could take it there. And that first few months of just working on the design, we were really coming together really nicely. A lot of strong ideas coming together, and a lot of that still remains in the game now.
I think it's one of the great things of this game. The design has kept evolving, but it's still accurate to the game.
Yeah.
We've changed it, we've evolved it, but we haven't.
It has been a very evolutionary process, because the core concepts are still in place, and it's been the mechanics that we've been adapting just to really refine and improve it.
We had a good start in that Chris had worked with me at Perfect Entertainment for quite some time, so we were a good team, we knew that. And then after I went and formed Sick Puppies and Chris went up to Manchester and formed International Hobo, it seemed a natural thing to do.
We'd always said that we never had an opportunity at Perfect to really show what we could do together, because we had a real feeling that there was a lot of potential there that we hadn't really tapped, and this was definitely the project that we were going to show off what this partnership could actually achieve.
And I think that's true. And the way it works, a game like Ghostmaster, any big game, it does require a lot of design effort constantly. Now, these days, studios, publishers, whatever, a lot of them accept that, but to have that sort of personnel in-house all the time is sometimes not cost-effective.
It gets very expensive very quickly.
Sometimes not even desirable. So having an external team who can focus on the game design, always maintain it, always keep it up to date, and not be bogged down by the day-to-day efforts going on in terms of programming, art and everything else, which can sometimes sort of divert game design. So in this case we're getting pure game design because we're working on it together, it's external, and it has those benefits. People say, isn't it a negative that is in a different city and a different whatever, but what that does is it tightens up your protocols, tightens up your communication.
Yeah, you have to do everything more vigorously because you can't take your development situation for granted.
It's an indirect game where you're controlling ghosts who you're trying to get to do things for you, usually to either scare mortals or to manipulate mortals.
Your team takes a certain amount of instruction from you, but other than that, they are actually making their own decisions.
Definitely.
Yeah, they're looking at what's going on around them, and they're seeing what the little humans are doing and reacting to it. So, whereas other games you have direct control of everything and it's entirely up to you what happens, you have to learn to work with your ghosts to succeed in Ghostmaster. You need to know what each one can do. And
I think that's one of the important things. People do get their favourite ghosts.
Oh yeah.
And they start training them up and they keep using them and they get better automatically, and then they get to use them more and more. And occasionally they lay certain other ghosts to rest and they find they like some of their powers. And players can also sample a ghost first. They can try it out before they lay it to rest, which is also quite good.
Yeah, there's a definite feeling when you discover a restless spirit that you actually want to recruit, that you play around with its powers and decide whether or not you actually want to spend the time to actually recruit them to your team. And that sense of growing the ghosts that you're working with, the pool of ghosts you're working with, works very well.
And I think the other thing, getting away from ghosts for a second, the other gameplay issue is the plasm, the way it relates to the fear that you build up in the mortals. Because you need, in a game like this, you need some sort of resource, some sort of fuel, or currency, or whatever you like to call it.
But it doesn't work like other resource games where the resources are often like money. You spend them once you've had them, they're gone. This is more like a voltage.
Yeah, it's a voltage.
Yeah, you scare the mortals. The more scared they are, the more plasm you have, and the more you can charge up your ghost's powers. And because you don't spend it and it's gone, you get this nice situation whereby, as long as you know what you're doing, you can make steady, constant progress. You never have to worry about running out once you actually get rolling, because the more you scare, the more plasm you get, the more you charge up your ghost powers, the more you scare them
Definitely,
again.
yeah. No, and players certainly do feel that. Once they get past the first little part and they get into it, they'll have a few ups and downs, but they do get in control of their own destiny, and they do see things happening.
But once players get the feel for the way the gameplay works, it gets very addictive very quickly. You really get attached to playing with these ghosts, and they all have their own unique personalities. It's the world of Ghostmaster is something that really sucks you in once you start playing with it.
Well, basically we received a whole gallon of design sketches, and we then turned these into 3D characters, into 3D landscapes. What you do is you take artistic liberties and you analyse a flat 2D sketch into 3D. Animation-wise, we sort of basically had free reign. We could do whatever we want that was crazy, wacky, fun, for both the mortals and also for the haunters.
In Ghostmasters, the mortals are one of the most important things we've got. Everything's about how the mortals react and what they're doing. It's similar to The Sims in that respect. So it's very, very important to get the animation on characters top-notch. And although I can't claim much credit for this, the animation system in-game is extremely well developed. The lighting in Ghostmaster is one of the features I like, partly because I'm responsible for it. But what Greg wanted with this was he wanted something that was very atmospheric and could really be used to give you different feels to different levels. What we needed was something the artist could control, but at the same time something they didn't have to work with for too long. So we've gone for what some people are calling photon mapping, but it's really an extension of a radiosity type of lighting process where we just take loads and loads of photons and throw them around the level from all the light sources. This gives us a lot of power with what we do with the lighting, because for outdoor lighting we can actually create ambient hemispheres of light where we just take a shell of light and cast individual photons, so it's like living on the inside of a ping pong ball as far as the lighting goes. And for directional light similarly, we can actually spread the angle of the lighting slightly so that instead of getting very, very hard shadows a long way away from objects outside, the sunlight will actually naturally blend off the shadows. So it gives us a lot of how we deal with the lights, and also lets us do some things which are kind of quite nice. We get light spilling through doorways inside. We get light diffusing around because these are just photons being cast around. They bounce off surfaces like in a radiosity algorithm, so the artists don't really have to worry about putting in fill-in lights or setting ambient lights. They can put in natural lights in the scene and just rely on a lighting engine to fill out dark areas with a realistic amount of light, so they get a really nice ambient moody look. With a game like Ghostmaster, anything that's in the natural environment and is going to affect the way that the mortals we see in the game behave is going to be important, and sound's one of those aspects. There are a number of powers that your haunters can use that affect the way mortals hear sounds, or may create sounds that the mortals can hear. So we have to have occlusion testing for sounds, so that if a haunter uses a sound power, then we've got an occlusion model for testing sounds and deciding whether or not a mortal can hear that. But the occlusion model's layered so that we have a limit to the number of walls that a mortal can hear a loud sound through, or a limit to the radius on a quiet sound, and all of this is factored into the sound engine. The in-game soundtrack's yet another aspect where the coding's been done to enhance the ambience of the game, because Ghostmaster's a very moody game. It's meant to have quite a lot of feel to it. our music guy, Paul Weir, that's composed the soundtracks, has done a really good job of breaking down all of the sounds into component parts. You never see an MP3 that's 2 or 3 minutes long. You see loads and loads of little samples, and Paul's worked wonders on them, so we can stitch them together however we want to get what sounds like a fairly free-flowing soundtrack out. So in game, when we want to increase the tension, or when something's happening, we can swap in and out various samples of sound and get a nice free-flowing soundtrack that responds and gives the player more feel of what's going on in the game.
In terms of story, I'm always a great fan of having a strong story, or at least a strong plot which twists and turns in a game. It's something that well, it's not ever for free, but it can hold a game together quite nicely and always keep it interesting. Ghostmaster is actually a game which combines quite a few genres, so it is sort of a real-time strategy game, a sort of a sim game, a god game if you will, and a mission-based game, so it doesn't need the tightest story to provide a good backbone for it, but we have spent a lot of effort inside the story and we leak it out.
Yeah, there's a definite intention with the way the story goes into Ghostmaster of implying the story rather than, you know, having discrete cutscenes cropping up all the time.
Yeah.
What's been nice here is that the International Hobo team that's been working on this is partly made up of writers and partly made up of games designers. So we've been working together to integrate the story into the gameplay. So rather than feeling like the story is just being shoehorned in at the end, I think there's a real sense that the story and the gameplay go hand in hand, and changes in one have made their influence felt in other parts. The names of the mortals even and their bios, there's been references to thousands of things buried in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Each player will only get, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 of them, but with the number of people who are going to be playing the game, everyone's going to spot little different references in the materials inside there.
That's a good thing, yeah.
I mean, you could play through the whole of the game and only get a vague inkling of the sort of framing arc that runs from beginning to end. But if you replay the game, if you play close attention, there's loads of little touches, little things going on. You can follow mortals around certain hauntings, and you'll see connections between the characters, and there's a real living world quality to it. It's got a make your own fly on the wall documentary in Gravenville to a certain extent.
And it'll start making sense more as people play it even more often, and there'll be echoes coming through from other things.